Hello everyone, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver. My mission is to bring you closer to organic Japanese green tea, and today we're gonna dive into session number 7 of our mega green tea sample tasting. So this is the mega sample, 28 different teas at the moment, and we're gonna dive into Sencha today. And today what I have chosen, the selection is the Nuruki Shincha. This tea is actually an early spring tea, so Shincha, maybe I give you a little bit of a background of what Shincha really is, or what the theory or what it is said about Shincha, and then we're gonna dive straight into the taste of this tea. So Shincha, when we talk about the tea, is actually the very first harvest in the year. So the Japanese, especially in earlier times, were very fond of the Shincha. It still has its glory. It's not something that has faded, but it has become a little bit less relevant. And why did the Shincha harvest become a little bit less relevant? And the reason is that in early times you had to get the very first harvest, the freshest tea leaves, to be drunk in order to really have the freshest tea, because in earlier times also the cooling of the tea itself or the keeping it fresh was not so easy, was harder. So the shin, like this very first harvest, was very important to get the freshest tea in the market. And sometimes we heard stories there were paid up to $5,000 per kilogram for Shincha tea. So in early times, so the biggest or the highest glory time was in the 70s or the 80s, but still nowadays it is highly appreciated, because it is also a sign that the summer is coming, a spring sign, and that the first harvest is still a very important harvest for the Japanese tea farmers. Consumers are still very fond of drinking a very fresh Sencha, but nevertheless, keeping the Sencha fresh or keeping the tea fresh has become a more easier for the farmers due to lower cost in cooling down the teas. Often farmers themselves, they keep the tea in a cold storage of around 5 to 6 degrees Celsius. So at a very low temperature, just to keep the tea as long as possible fresh. And that's why the Shincha itself is not that important anymore, but still it gives you a very nice kind of fresher flavor. And often what the distinctiveness of a good Shincha is that you have more of this nice, sweet and fresh grassy tones with it. So this nice vegetable, fresh young vegetable kind of taste profiles which come with the tea. And that's why Shincha still today has kind of this superior kind of freshness taste profile, what the consumers are looking for in Japan. So that's actually what you should be looking for when you're going for a Shincha. So this here is the Nuruki Shincha from the farmer Nuruki. So this tea is from a little bit more from the south, also from the island of Kyushu. And here we talk about the blend as well. And what is very special about this tea is that it is also a deep steamed tea. The Japanese call the deep steamed fukamushi. It's just a longer steaming or longer steam bath after the harvest. Here we talk about 2, 3 to up to 4 times. If I'm right, here we talk about the double of the amount of time of a normal or shorter or light steeping, how it is called, or asamushi. Here we talk about the fukamushi or deep steam method. So when we just have a look at the tea leaves, so I can show them to you here. So you can see they are quite fine. This is typical for a fukamushi tea. So we see the fine, a little bit more brittle leaves. You can see it's nearly a little bit dusty, but it's not a bad quality sign. It's just the fact that this tea is a deep steamed tea, a fukamushi style tea. But what we also can see is that the teas are quite dark. So this is a shaded tea. My guess is around 7 to 8 days that this tea is shaded. So very, very nice sweetness I'm expecting, but also a lot of this kind of a little bit grassy freshness. Due to the fact that it is a Fukamushi, I will take a teapot, which is a full around 360 degree strainer. This is always good because with these teapots, then you can be sure that you don't have your tea leaves that are clogging, and you can just enjoy it. Like a first smell already reveals us. I get a little bit of honey melon, nice grassiness, a little bit of spinachy, not too much umami flavor, so not too savory, not too much artichoke flavors, a little more in the direction of edamame or green peas. So let's try this out. So I preheated the water to 70 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit lower now, it's 66, so I would say it's around 165, 170 Fahrenheit. Yeah, 165 Fahrenheit more. And we're just gonna add around 150 milliliters. This is around 6 ounces, which I'm adding. And then we're just gonna wait for quite a short time. The good thing about Fukamushi or deep steam tea is that you can only brew it for 45 seconds and it's actually already done. The reason is that they're small tea leaves or smaller tea leaves, smaller tea particles, and they're giving stronger or faster their flavor, and you just use it over 3 times. Importance that you keep rebrewing the leaves, because with every brew then we get a new taste. So let's see how the smell is. Get a little bit more of a creamy, of a nutty flavor. So I'm expecting the tea to shift still a little bit more from the first to the smell of the tea leaves. And now with the brewing, I expect the tea to shift a little bit more into the space of umami, a little bit more of a savory space. And we already can see that this tea has a very nice green. Beautiful green color. So we just have a look at it. It's very, very nice in terms of its green already. So I'll show it here on the side. So very, very nice already in its green color. But I expect this tea to become even greener when we brew it for the second time. But let's already have the first one. We got much more of a sweet corn as well. A little bit creamy, a little bit nutty. Walnut, I get a little bit. So here we really have a tea that is shaded. It's definitely a typical flavor of shaded tea. There's a lot of sweetness, smoothness with this tea. There's a nice fresh grassy note with it, but it goes directly into a more of a sweet and round flavor profile. It shows quite some savory notes. So I had a little bit of honey melon when I smelled the leaves. In the taste, I don't get the honey melon. I get more of a little bit of edamame. I get a little bit of green beans, a little bit more of this nice kind of fresh spinachy, a little bit of a greener flavor profile. But it also has a lot of this artichoke, a little bit this sweeter, rounder flavor. It goes more in direction of kind of the sweetness goes more in the direction of a peachy kind of, when you really have a ripe peach, but which is not too sweet. And there around this one I get a lot of, and there's a little bit of a slight creamy texture which you get with it. So often when you have the peach which is not too sweet, like the I don't know how they call it, the flat peaches, they're a little bit more kind of, they have a slight, it's not creamy, but there's a little bit more density in their flavor. And this I get a little bit from the tea. So it moves kind of from a more greener taste. I have a little bit of edamame. I have a little bit of green peas. Have a little bit of green beans, something around there, so a nice kind of fresh grassy note. It's not refreshing, so there's no kind of cucumber note with it, and then it moves slowly into a more smoother and then a little bit in this peachy direction. So quite interesting, as the first steeping is often the sweetest ones, especially with Fukamushi teas. It is there where you get the sweetest tone. So here definitely the peach tone is a little bit stronger than this kind of green grassy tone. So this green peas tone. So let's have the second brewing just to see. How this tea evolves. Shake it a little bit, but only a little bit. Something I picked up and I don't get rid of it. I always shake a little bit because I think all the leaves have to be in the water. So only 20 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds is more than enough. Now we should have a very beautiful green. Let's see. Good. And it is. So this is typical now, second brewing of the Fukamushi, super green. Now we get the full color intensity of this tea. This will persist throughout the second and the third brewing definitely. And normally I should get a little bit more of a grassy tone with the tea now in the second brewing, so you can see this tea is just beautifully green. And this is just amazing. Exactly. So you can really see how beautiful the color of this tea has changed in the direction of a very intense green. Good. So let's have the second sip. Okay, that surprises me now. The tea, normally when you have a Fukamushi, or what my experience is with the Fukamushi, that you really shift more into a grassy tone, more in a green tone, edamame. I got a little bit more of a spinachy tone maybe with it. This tea stays quite strong in the sweet section. I got even the peachy, and you get a little bit of apricot now pushing through as well. But there's a green, kind of the green flavor, it didn't get more intense, but it nearly seems that it got a broader spectrum to it. So now I get a little bit more of a refreshing tone. I nearly get a little bit of this cucumbery refreshment with it. So you've quite a nice sweetness still in the beginning, apricot, peach, and then it goes over into a more greener tone. So before I was like having this greener tone first, and then it moved into the sweeter notes. Now the sweeter notes are predominantly in the beginning, and then it moves into a more kind of a refreshing tone, a little bit more greener. It's very smooth. Stays strongly in the sweet side. So this tea, definitely a tea when you like sweet tones and you're not too much fond of these too strong grassy tones. If you're not too fond of, especially when you want to move away, you don't have astringency in your tea, just give it a low temperature here, 165 Fahrenheit. You can even go a little bit lower to 60 degrees Celsius, 140 Fahrenheit. This is also a good way to brew this tea. And here, definitely when you go down with the temperature, you push it on the sweet side, and this tea stays quite sweet. So now we are at 63, so we're moving down below 160 Fahrenheit. So just do this third brewing, because I'm super curious how the third brewing is of this tea. It's really sweet. It stays strongly in this sweet corner. Now I had a little bit of sediment, so you always have a little bit of sediment. Yeah, it has a little bit more of a green touch, but still Very, very sweet. And you can see like also the third brewing strongly in this beautiful intense green color. Kind of, you get a lot of umami green, but still there's a nice kind of sweetness. There's the sweet corn. This is really a sign that this tea is sweet. So if you're in the store, if you're once in your tea store and you smell the leaves, there always has to be a slight kind of a nearly sugary tone. There's always more kind of a green or stronger green flavor kind of with the, or kind of smell, green smell with the tea leaves when you smell them. But there's a small undertone what you have to pay attention to. Here, yeah, here I get a little bit of apricot. This is honey melon, which you don't get in the taste, but you have it a little bit slight. Yeah, slight tones of licorice. But when you're looking for tea leaves, when you're in the tea store, maybe just look for these sweet undertones. There has to be a little bit of a stronger flavor, not so much kind of straight fresh cut grass. And there has to be a little bit of these sweet undertones which just are there in a very, very fine manner. You have to look for this if you want to go for sweet tea. Clearly the aspect is dark leaves, as I showed you before. And then when you smell them, smell the leaves and look a little bit for this sweet kind of sweet and light notes in the tea leaves. Then you know that the tea have a nice sweetness and you have less risk of having an astringent tea. Good, so far for this. Brewing number 3 gets a little bit lighter, but still this tea all in all, through all the brewings, is a very sweet tea. So I get again a little bit of these peachy notes, a little bit of these apricot notes. They get a little bit lighter. And I have a nice kind of a edamame, green bean note, a little bit of that in the second note. So it really shifts from the first to the second and third. That first is more in the beginning, a little bit more sweet, more kind of this refreshing note, and then moving into the sweetness. Here definitely you have the sweetness and then moving a little bit more into this green tone. So quite a change around from the first to the second brewing and also compared to the third. But all in all, a very sweet tea. There is this light grassiness, this lightness of the Shincha tone with it, and but it is embedded in a very nice, sweet, round, kind of fruity, or in this case, in a peachy or apricot-y flavor profile. So when you're going for a Shincha, definitely you will get this finer, a little bit lighter green tones. And then as soon as it's shaded and as soon as it's deep steamed for a longer time, steamed in the production process, then you really get these nice round sweet notes. Good, this was this. I hope you like this one here too. And if you ever have a question, please put it down in the comment section and we will try to answer them all. Thanks a lot for watching. See you and bye bye.